Hey, greetings, welcome. I'm going to start by saying we've missed you. We have so much news to catch you up on. But before we do anything, I got to say, Tug of Heart, you want to talk about Tug of Heart? Um, Uvalde, Texas. Wow. Just brutal. And, without championing either side of firearms control, and it's devastating, and I'm sad, and my heart just goes out to these families. Sometimes it gets very, very challenging because it just seems like evil will find a way to prevail. Timothy McVeigh used fertilizer, um, rental U-Haul trucks, a crock pot at the Boston Marathon. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, it's sad. So I can't even hide it. I won't mask it. I pray for these families, and I pray for just an understanding, and that they're comforted. Um, I wish I could talk about that for an entire podcast, but I can't. Just to catch you up real quick, Lori and I took a trip. We rendezvoused in New Mexico. We spent a couple days there, and we road tripped back home to my home, South Florida, about 2,100 miles, and took our time and got here safely. That was fun. I got to see our children, respective children, and just really got to reunite. And so while the mood is definitely just not as enthusiastic as always, I mean, there's this kind of overhang of darkness, and it's sad, but we will prevail. We will press on. Today, we're going to chat a little bit about family and trusting family, and how we can find comfort in that during this time. Lori, welcome.
Hi.
Seems like I haven't seen you in forever.
It does. I got kind of used to seeing you daily. I think it's good what you mentioned of Texas to begin with. It's very a stark moment, and it points to more than laws or anything, just where society's at in general, without specifics of what's gone wrong. The one thing I hold about it is the right foundation for a good society that treats one another well is the family. It begins with that always. If only because families expand until they become bigger, and then you have a culture, society, and all that. What we're talking about today is very relevantly right now that you mentioned it, because our family is the first place that we start to develop who we are, our state of mind that we are going to take into the world and share. And that's how we will impact the world in help or harm. Not that I know the ins and outs of it, or I can detect, by having a look at a family, but I do believe that it's important to do your best within family life, because that's the first place I ever practiced how to treat anybody. And that has everything to do with what we repeat and then later continue doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is. That's kind of that's kind of definitely the foundation, that we grow in. And when we think about family, and we think about trust, I mean, we come into this world. There's a reason that we are listed as dependents, because we are dependent for everything, from affection, playtime, nutrition. We're kind of taught to trust, and that trust sometimes doesn't go according to plan, but it's important, because as I kind of look at this topic and then think about previous topics, these are starting to get stitched together in a fashion that's just, I mean, it's unique, because, as important as trusting your family, it also requires some courage,
Absolutely.
especially once we've experienced some disappointment. It requires us to maintain a level of vulnerability,
Hmm.
and there again, that is from the time that we're born, we start moving away from just that blind trust, and it becomes more earn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we actually start demanding that somebody earn our trust, because
Right.
we come to the table with a little bit of uh, a predisposition for cautiousness, something that we're not born with, where that's an acquired uh, element of our life. So, as we kind of start to get through this trip that we took, Lori, was really quite remarkable, because we were reunited with our children, and it was like not a day had passed.
Yes, and then other family as well, and it's like um just Dad used to say this to me, like if he saw somebody in the family, I would ask him, "Oh, how were they? Did did they look the same? Have they changed, Dad? Have they, what's new? What's different?" I always wanted to know what's different, what's different. And I was always disappointed because he would look at me and he'd be like, "Well, Lori, same soul." And and my reaction when I was young, very young, he would tell me this, and I would be like, "Well, that doesn't answer my question at all." But with time, what a beautiful answer that is, that he gave me consistently. Like, "Oh, have they changed?" And I was thinking like more white hairs, wrinkles, they get fat, let me know the details. And he'd be like, same soul. And now I felt it this time, right? Like when I see you, I know what soul I'm in for, no matter what else is atmospheric, at least, right? Just what's changed in your life. You're getting ready to move. If anything's changed at work, your workout routine, the atmosphere changes, same soul within it. And with time, I start to think that is what you see change in people the most, is what they surround themselves with, probably. Because a lot of times people, will theorize like people have this personality, this person's aggressive, but we only know people in certain situations we see them in. Sometimes when people's life improves, we get to see them in a new situation that they've kind of orchestrated and have a little bit more say within. And I think that's how we see people develop. I want to go back just to the beginning of this, if you don't mind, Leroy. You had said inherited family, trust, and comfort is what we would talk about today. Can you just start by like explaining that to me? Inherited family, trust, and comfort. How do we inherit it? And if you can just tell me, does that mean we have right to it? Because you had said before, the predisposition of cautiousness. Do we also, with time, can we come to expect this? And if we find it missing, is it ours to grow that in the family where it's missing? A lot of questions, sorry, but
Yeah, that's a lot going on there.
any part of it you reply to.
So I think that we inherit it at our birth.
Okay.
And, there's not a lot. I'm going to bring up Seth.
Yeah.
And I have a little mouse pad here on my desk. And this mouse pad is my nephew and me.
Right. Working.
And we're working. And I wanted him, I remember I wanted him like to kind of open up or feel comfort, the inherited comfort. So I'm like kind of teaching him a little bit about working, and I put my hand down and I put his hand on top of mine. He's got control, right? But I'm working beneath his little mitt. And that's what I'm talking about. That's just inherited. There's a trust there that we're going to handle things in a way that doesn't upset the cart, so to speak. We're going to, as his uncle, I'm going to let him lead while I lead. so to speak. And I'm going to do things in a way that just kind of tap into, if you will, that birth, carefree trust, that untainted trust. Like, preserve it. He was born with it, preserve it.
Oh, I like that a lot.
And so as we kind of go through things, my first thing upon me, spending time with my nephew, meeting my nephew, is not to raise a hand to him.
Right.
It's not to raise my voice. He was born with trust. And the only one that can, diminish that trust would be me, because he doesn't know anything different, but I do.
Right. And
so,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that's kind of what I was referring to about inherited. He knows to trust me. He's inherited that.
Right.
I'm his family. While he may not understand it completely in the dynamics of twins and brother, and he's young and he's little, but he knows that there's a warmth that radiates.
Oh, I love that.
From family.
Right.
I love that
so much.
So that's exactly what I was referring to.
And bringing it back to how you opened, it's a profound thing you're saying here, the warmth that radiates, because children are born with untainted trust, like you said. It's just inherent, in them. The other thing that they have an equal amount of, if not more than trust, is potential. That's what we arrive with. All the potential in the world, not a skill yet for this world, but everything we need. And when you talk about being kind, instead of raising a hand, reaching out a hand, you are talking about fostering that potential. And I think it's important, as no matter what your role in a family, if it's a sibling, a parent, when a new person enters the family, we have to be foster to them and care for them, because that potential is only ever ruined by neglect. And to me, the opposite of neglect is that caring and fostering of what they are to be with time. Right?
For sure.
And I think that's when you damage people, is when you infringe upon their potential, which is also by right theirs. That's the most basic you get as a human right, is to achieve your potential.
So I'm trying to stitch all this together so that we kind of, maybe you can explain a little bit better. We're talking about like inherited family trust and comfort, and you're talking about potential. Do you think that the potential grows, or you're just talking about like maximizing that they're born with?
Well, I think they first begin to discover it within the family, because if you think about what a family is, like if I think about you, what we have in common as children first, before we spent our first time in the family home, we also saw our uncle and our children, and you think, what makes us family? Well, a big part of it is just location, right? And our story can be traced back to the same origin at some point. My story begins here, and literally the branches come from the same place that our uncles do. So when we're talking about potential, I think it's discovered and kind of exercised initially within the family. And it's kind of, it's a funny little dynamic, because you're also growing your potential in this place that should be the safest. Part of what makes it the safest is, guess what? Everybody's more themselves than they are outside the home in their public life. The way your mom acts and what she says in public is not the same as when she's just let off that public guard. The children, we hold it together all day in school, come home, everybody's a little sloppier at home. And so we're practicing where people are just being a little bit more, it's not reckless, but a little bit more at ease with a little less posturing. And so you're kind of corrected in that environment. And that's where you're first learning your potential and also natural boundaries and boundaries that someday you will hopefully exceed. You'll move past that initial domain, and hopefully your potential wasn't zapped so that you try to exercise it beyond that after with encouragement. Go ahead.
Are we talking about potential or trust? Or potential trust?
No.
I'm a little confused.
Ability, everything like who you are today began was just you had potential to be this or to be anything else, and a lot of it has to do with your interactions and where trust succeeded and where it fell short is what I'm saying. And so what I'm saying is, in family, you inherit this trust, and hopefully you aren't let down. And good thing we have more than one member of the family, because what if you got the wrong one and you were so let down? Your potential would be dashed, I'm saying. So it's good that we have, like you had so much interaction with our Uncle Ernest, is specifically what I was talking about. And you've learned a lot through him, through cousins. Arguably, you're a lot better at staying in touch with the family. And it shows in your ability that we could have said we both began with the same potential, but a lot of yours has developed through that very close-knit trust and exercise of who you are within kindred. When you say kindred, like your family, they're kin to me. Kindred means kind, same kind of people. And I think it's served you very well. I think it's given, it also has probably struck you several times. You've turned out all right, ultimately, though, right?
Oh, stay tuned. So I think this is really, really, like, I'm having a hard time stitching all of this together that you're saying, because a lot of it's talking about potential, a lot of it's talking, my mind is probably more simplistic in that I'm talking about our ability to trust family and how do we maintain the ability to trust family. However, when I hear you talk, I hear trust as in a family trust, as in a brain trust, as in a familial trust.
Yeah.
Which is really completely different, probably. No, not arguably. It's far more complex. But
and I don't think it is. It's funny because I think,
yeah, but smart, intelligent people never think it's complex. But but the reality is I think you're talking about trusting my family, which is somewhat similar. And the byproduct of that initial interaction or staying close or familiarity and memory building, and part of what happens there is that the family trust from grandma to an uncle to me to my daughter is maintained. So we're kind of talking about two different trusts here.
Right. But also, if somebody's giving you, if I don't trust you, I'm not going to accept what you're giving me. So trust is involved also for the trust. If you're thinking of it like along the lines of property, even if it's about human values, but say we could contain it in a trust per se, and you want to hand it on to your daughter. She trusts you. She accepts that lineage. She does not. She rejects it. So that's why I see them as kind of one and the same. Trust is necessary for fiduciary reasons, as well as just comfort and safety. That's why I guess I see them as one and the same. And it's really funny because I wasn't even thinking that until you mentioned Texas. And I was thinking there are certain things that are worked out at some level where people kind of know. We can never say what we're capable of on our worst days, but there are some places we don't think we would ever go because something was already agreed upon when we were very young. There are certain things I would not do in life, and I believe you would not do. And I don't know when we came to that, but it did probably happen pretty young, that we knew certain lines we wouldn't cross in life, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's a little outside the scope, but I think to trust family is something that I bank on. One of the things I had said when I went to visit you, it was very hard for me to leave and travel. I put it off for a long time after the loss of Seth, but I could not think of a better situation to do it. And I had said after coming back in a post where I feel I feel the most safe with and trust these people with who I am. And what I mean by that is I trust you completely. I could really pull a whopper in the direction of good or bad. And you're kind of a permanent fixture in my life. I have trust in that. That's massive. Right?
Well, when you load the question that way, I feel compelled to agree.
Are you going to cut me off? What could I possibly do that would be, we're severed? I don't feel that exists. That is the ultimate of trust. I don't think trust is bigger than that. I don't think I could grow or shrink any amount that would compromise us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of family members of this young man in Texas, that's definitely crossing the lines, and capital offenses it's hard. It's hard to, you can say my family will always be there for me, but man, those are some lofty goals after you pull a stunt like that,
But a lot of times the family that is there like that, they may not, that they trust, it means they may not test certain boundaries also.
Mm-hmm. So there's something about, I'm thinking about trust, I'm thinking about family, I'm thinking about tutelage, and I'm thinking about all the things that we learn, from our family members, and we trust their advice. And
right. That's a big one.
What is it about us though, having raised a daughter and for a good period of time raised myself, what is it that makes us want to challenge those things that we should trust? Like, they tell us, like, don't do this because here's the consequence. Yeah. I know I trust this person. This person's been looking after me for a long time, teaching me skills, teaching me different things about life, up to and including my vocabulary. But why don't we trust? Because there has to be a breakdown. We trust them with everything from our birth, to give us a bottle, to give us clean linens, to give us, a playtime and sleep. And, we just trust them. We're helpless, literally helpless. We can't hold down a job at 2 days old. We can't make a bottle at 2 days old. And we can't even get dressed or do anything. Bathe ourselves, nothing. We can't do anything. We trust them to do that. And when they don't do it or they're not prompt, we cry out to notify them, but we trust that our cries will be heard, and but yet as we get older, we start to abate that trust so that we start to trust in ourselves more. We know more.
Right. Yeah.
And so we start to, they tell us, don't do this or this will happen. Will that really happen?
Well, there's, that what you're talking about is something that we have to somehow be able to trust in our parents, and we have to trust them to have a certain amount of ability to shape us. And that comes in the form of discipline. We say discipline is needed to ever even work in life, period. Right? And so when we're very young, this is where the formation for that happens. And it does happen by testing. If I go this way, would you pull me back from the flowing waters? If I go this way, would you pull me back before I go out into society and do the same crazy thing? Can you give, will you discipline me? Allow me to retain my life, but give me a tough enough lesson that I won't repeat this in a way that's irreversible later. And a lot of times that does happen. It's trusting that they will shape us, not trusting that they won't, that it will always be comfortable. Does that make sense? I don't know what that means. No, because it's like, because one of it is like we trust for comfort, but not always. Just that we will land right is the bigger issue.
Wow. Maybe I shouldn't be taking so much time off from these podcasts, because that's just I don't know. I don't know, Lori. I don't know. You're literally right now, you're operating at a level that's hard for me to even get,
Oh no, because just think of this. When I've come to you, I don't think just my parents have grown me. I think you've grown me too. And Dorothy has grown us. She sat and did homework with us. Me and you, a lot of what we figured out about life was right there in a family together. My gosh, did we not ever get a hold of each other and teach some of the roughest consequences ever? There are certain things I know, to this day, I don't sit next to anybody on any public transportation poking. I know not to. And by extension, I wouldn't do anything more than that, because I got my lessons young, and that's in that safety and of privacy, right? In the back of a car.
So I'm gonna take a minute here, and I'm gonna go back.
Go ahead.
To just a much more infantile understanding and explanation. Right now, my daughter is, she's a little bit unsettled, relationships kind of not exact. Her personal relationship, not with her father or mother, but her personal relationship. And, she made a choice. She chose a partner, a companion, and they're doing good. And I wish that she trusted, and not trusted what I say, but trusted my exposure to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm not telling her something based on just this wisdom, behold, here's what I see. No, it's because I've seen these things. I've just been exposed to these types of scenarios many more times than she has been. And so, when it comes to trust, we always tell our children, my wish for you isn't that I could tell you more, but that you could see yourself the way that I see you. Like that's true trust. I wish you trusted me enough to forego your own vision and see how I see you. Because I see you with incredible potential. And I see you literally on the 5-yard line. You don't have to run 100 yards. You don't have to run 50 yards. You're that close. And it's just, one good play or 2 good plays, and it's a touchdown.
You know what it makes me think of? I'll go more infantile. When I taught Shay to walk, little guy would leave the couch, and I'm standing across the room when he's really ready for some good steps, and across the room back then is a much smaller house, so not a big deal, but still he's going to walk, say 10, we'll say 10 feet for simplicity, leaves the couch. The guy makes it 9 feet. And I'm like, you got it. 2 more steps. My hands are reached out. He can't see what I see. He would turn back and walk the 9 feet because he didn't trust the last 1 foot.
Right.
And so that's I feel like that exemplifies what you're saying about trust, right? It's like, I can see you have, if you don't think you can make the 2 feet, you're not going to make the 9 back, kiddo. And he'd be like, oh, this is where I maxed out with trust. And he would hike 9 feet back. And I think that's the frustration with parents, because we do see it so clear, and so we can't even explain to them how literal we can see what's happening. I literally can see behind you and ahead of you right now. I have a higher ground, higher perspective. I'm taller. What is that information without full trust, right?
That's right.
But it's only when he will enter into that trust against what he feels like, I won't make it further. I've taken too many steps. I don't have 2 more. Let me return to safety. But only when he overrides the natural fear of self-preservation and takes the steps does he establish trust a little further in me. It is like the hardest thing to understand, even as a parent. I know we tested everything for ourselves, and here goes the children, but there is a lot to be said. Me and you disappointed each other, hurt each other, but trust has come with, I guess, odds in life. I don't know. Like, you've done me right more than wrong so many times that I trust you. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. That's called lack of judgment.
When I trust you. Tell me about, like, being with an uncle versus a parent, because you have now reached the point where our uncle calls you to ask your thoughts about things. How do you come to that place? Speaking of trust, why should he trust you when he has kids in your category? Since we don't have a father to speak of right now alive.
I tell him I'm always trying to, like, gift things, and the older I get, the more I realize I can't gift objects, but I can gift emotions. And so when it comes to Ernest, I notify him. I put him on notice, and I said, listen, you are the senior member of this family. You have, with that comes some responsibility. And one of those responsibilities is that in the absence of my father, who has passed, you are the de facto father figure,
right?
Leader. Mm-hmm. So we have this, him and I, we have a good relationship. Matter of fact, I saw him not too long ago. We each traveled to the center of the country, met up in some strange town at a Walmart parking lot, and camped for a couple days. And we're going to do it again, and there's trust, and that's the kind of trust I'm talking about. I trust that I don't trust that he'll stay awake if something bad was happening. he's a heavy sleeper, but I do trust that he would not willingly let me be harmed. So, right. And he must trust that I, for either through example or whatever, he trusts that I may at least give him something to chew on if he's asking questions. If he's saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Whether it's a business or something, he may just trust that at least I can have a perspective that would be valuable for consideration, right. Which is what we always say.
Do you think people trust others in the family because of similarity, and we tend to trust people a little bit like us?
In our family, I'd say we probably don't trust as well as we should.
Right.
And that may be rightfully so. I'm not here to question it. It's just, I know I've had some challenges with family members, and, I don't amputate those relationships, but I certainly limit my exposure based on experiences. So, and that's trust or lack of same, it's, but experience is kind of what hones our wits, you know, that's.
You know, something just dawned on me, and I know we don't really like to bring a religious element, but I can't help but think of when you were saying that, I was picturing, first of all of this a little unrelated, but I'll try to hurry through it. You parked a truck on top of Uncle's house. And
I
so
did.
while you were telling me this, I'm like, why on earth would this guy ever trust him? You have done the most tremendous pranks on people, sometimes enraging, sometimes only funny with a little time, and then so funny, some of these, right? And then I was thinking from the Bible where it's like, when push comes to shove, even if somebody has done things like this, but they are in the family, and then that you go to the person, like say I go to you after you've just really given me a run for my money, just a rough time, and I'm like, Leroy, I need your advice. And you could just be like, well, why me? And again, this is just from the Bible. It made me think of, who else would I go to? That's it sometimes, right? This is
Anybody.
no. But when you need that kind of filial love, like a little higher level, who else could I see? That's it about this. Sometimes there's stuff you're only going to take to a brother, to a father, to a mother.
That's that inherited trust.
That's that exactly, because even if they have fallen short, where else would you take what is properly theirs? So on that note, I guess.
So to answer your question, yes, the truck was on top of his house, his personal dwelling, but on a good note, I mean, I only left it there for like 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, and
his neighbors think he's crazy.
Yeah, they did think he's crazy. But then again, aren't we all a little crazy?
Yeah.
Some people just wear it on their lapel, others do not.
I find comfort in crazies because then I know I fit in there.
With that, I got to say, so happy to be back. So happy to have this time. And just, I missed making these little videos. And for those of you that are listening for the first time in a couple of weeks, thank you for checking back in. Like it, share it. Lori, take us out of here.
Thanks so much, you guys. I really did miss doing this. We tried to do one video and it was just, didn't work the same. Turns out we have to be apart to bring this together. Until next time, like Leroy said, like and share the podcast, and also Strong Island. And we will be here again very soon for the time being. Until next time, farewell.
Adios.